Good morning. My name is Roger Worthington. I am very pleased to be here. Thank you, 350 Deschutes. Thank you for inviting me. This is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk about why go green. We're going to ask a question and kind of use my experience as a roadmap. I'll share with you some of the things we've done at Worthy Brewing, some of the things we are doing and why we're doing it, and talk to you a little bit about my personal mission. So this is going to be fun. By the way, I'm not a tax accountant. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a techie. I'm not a biologist. But I know people who are. So that's the key, is you have to and in this room, I'm sure there's a lot of very smart people who can answer very detailed questions. I probably am not that guy, but I'll do my best. So we're going to talk about, we're going to ask the question, why go green, from the perspective of someone like me, who's just a small town kid from Corvallis, Oregon, who decided to build a brewery one day. And so when we ask the question, why go green, you have to kind of go back in time. And my journey starts in Corvallis, Oregon, where one of the first things that impressed me about commerce and how it and the contributions it makes to society and some of the byproducts that it sort of flops off onto society without a price tag was the 1973 oil embargo. And that made a strong impression on me as a young kid growing up in Corvallis. I started learning things about finiteness, dependence, the fact that fossil fuels are extremely important to our economy, and I began to learn about air pollution, began to learn about the joys of riding a bike, and then from there I started thinking about solutions as a kid. And one of the second things that really impressed me growing up was in the mid-70s when Jimmy Carter, on the heels of the oil embargo, on his first couple days in office, put solar panels on top of the White House. Now, why am I talking about this? Because awareness is a key. If you're going to motivate people to do things, to pursue their passion, you have to get to them early. So talking to high school kids and grade school kids, it's really important to plant the seed, and it starts with awareness. So when I saw Jimmy Carter do that, I thought, wow, what a strong message, what a strong message. Of course, as soon as Ronald Reagan was elected, I think in the first week he tore him down. So again, we sort of, our word matches our deed. And he was never a big fan of greenness, if you remember Jim Watt, that whole fiasco back in the 70s. So then you go to college. I went to college, and then you start reading philosophy, and you start thinking about larger issues. And one of the quotes that stuck with me early on was a quote from this Italian philosopher who, his name was Horace. He's the one who gave us Carpe Diem, which is great. He also said, if you're going to give advice, be brief, so I'll try to honor that. I read something. He said, by the right means if you can, but by any means make money. And I thought, it's sort of one extreme or the other. Is there any way to bridge the gap? Can you make money as an entrepreneur and do the right thing? So that's always been the question in my mind. And so when I decided in 2011 and 12 to build a brewery here in Bend, because Lord knows we need another brewery in this town. You've got to learn how to separate yourself from the herd, right? And so you got to do something big and bold, something you believe in. I mean, that's one thing about craft beer, right? Is we don't follow the man, we don't follow the herd. We're always looking for a breakout, something to distinguish us. Nobody wants to bring sand to the beach, right? So in 2011, we designed this facility, and my vision was Beertopia. I wanted to build something that's going to reflect my values as a human being. So just real briefly, you can see that we built the facility with solar panels on the roof and also solar thermal panels on the roof, and I'll tell you more about that in a bit. We use all kinds of very high K-factor insulation throughout the building. We provided natural light. We provided also, we built a hop garden. Again, that's sort of an educational thing. We want to teach people about growing hops and what they are and what they're for. We also have a nice recycling program. We have a little herb garden there because, again, it's not just about using less electricity and fewer fossil fuels, but it's also about planting some plants to release oxygen and all those great molecules we need to survive. Good for the planet. And then we also, everyone thinks about investing in green means solar and solar thermal and so on, but actually there are all kinds of conventional appliances that are available that you can opt for high efficiency. So we went with some conventional technologies that were consistent with our values of trying to do less with more and burn fewer fossil fuels. So that was Beertopia 1, and that was a lot of fun. And now we're if you've been out to the east side, it's way over there toward Burns. The trip will be worth it, believe me. We're in the process of building Beertopia 2, and an observatory. We call it the Hobservatory, and I'll tell you more about that later. Why build that observatory? For me, it has to do with scale. I mean, we're all environmentalists, but something's not working, right? If we keep hammering people with, we're killing the planet, I don't know, people get turned off, I guess. So I'm going to just build an observatory and give people the idea of scale and perspective. That, yeah, colonization sounds cool, it's great for a movie, great for a book, but in the end, everything out there is too far, too hot, too toxic, too radioactive, there's no pressure, there's no life. In the end, we got this perfect little planet called home. Let's treat it well, because there's no place like home. So I'm an environmentalist, but I'm trying to change my tactics to reach younger people and more people, so we're more sensitive to the needs of our own planet. In building Beertopia Part 2, we also integrated more solar panels over what we call the star bar up here. That's the star bar, this whole thing, star bar. And those are solar panels, and they're really cool. Sunlight Solar did a great job. When we built the first part of Beertopia, all those panels are up top, and they're great, and we know they're great, and I'm happy about it, but no one can really see them. Now we get to put them in a place where they're kind of translucent, so you look up and see them, and it stimulates conversation. People talk about utopia, Beertopia, and it's great. It stimulates conversation. So the first array of panels we put in 2012, 117 photovoltaics, works really great. It produces 37,000 kilowatts per hours per year. It saves about $5,000 just that panel system alone. And we're really happy about that, because we wanted, again, to separate from the herd and basically brew solar-powered beer. And that feels good, and it works well. And then I just mentioned in Beertopia 2, we put in these panels, we call them the solar awning panels, and it's really cool. You got to come out and see them. You look up, sitting there drinking a beer, looking up the mountains, enjoying yourself, and you're thinking, wow, this is really cool. We're using the sun to provide the power to run the machinery to brew this beer, and that's really working well. I really like the idea of getting people to talk about stuff, getting customers to stimulate conversation about where we are, where we're going, and it's going to be great. So when you combine our panels on top of our roof and our solar awning, we'll have a 50 kilowatt system, and I think it's aesthetic. I think it's cool. My homeowners association did fight me when I put panels on my roof, which I thought was great. We are progressing slowly, surely. And that the annual savings just from the awnings will be about $1,250, and we'll kind of crunch all these numbers as we proceed on. And so earlier you saw those panels on the roof; those are the solar thermal, and that was a lot of fun. We got a big kick out of that. Down in the brew house, we have this big tub. It's about 2,000 gallons, and the solar panels preheat all of the water that we use for our beer, for our kitchen, when you wash your hands in the lavatory, and so on. And again, that's a reminder to my staff, to our customers, and everybody, that we brew solar-powered beer, and we are trying to spare the environment excess carbon and all the other nasty pollutants out there. That saves us a lot of money as well, 35 to 5,000 annually. It spares the atmosphere about 42,000 pounds of carbon. And I don't know, like I said, I'm not a techie, but for me it's magic. I mean, it's cold out, it's Oregon, right? It's like 40 degrees out. You walk in, you look at the thermometer on the hot tub, and it's like 150, 160 degrees, and I don't know how that works, but it's beautiful. It's a lovely, lovely thing. Somebody could explain it. So just moving away from the solar part, green is good. You remember Gordon Gekko, I love that. Green is good. Well, green is good. I mean, it's good. We're gonna show that not only is it aesthetic, it's good for the environment, but it also pencils out. I mean, let's face it, people like to see locally grown food. People like to eat locally grown food. They like to see how it's grown. And so, again, Beertopia is this campus where you've got engineering, you've got biology, you've got some science, you've got marketing, you've got finance, all these things. But also, you've got a showcase, a laboratory for how we grow food and how we grow hops. And so, this is part of our story. We plant herb, we have an herb garden, and we use a lot of those herbs on our salads and meats and entrees, and it works great. We have a gardener, she's wonderful, Lisa. She does a great job, Like every other brewery, no one likes to throw away spent grain and spent hops. It's this stuff, and you can, when the grain comes out of the kettle or out of the lauter tun, it's like oatmeal. I mean, you can eat it, it's actually pretty good. It's good fiber. And why throw that away? It makes no sense at all. It's a byproduct. And that's what's crazy. I learned this in school again, that when we talk about the price of a product, we talk about the cost of the goods, the materials, and the labor, but we don't talk about the byproducts. There's no price on the waste. We just sort of let someone else deal with that. We don't price it, so no one wants to deal with it. Well, isn't it great? And my dad taught me, recycle is good, but reuse is better. So we took that grain, like a lot of other breweries, and our spent hops, and we provide it to a local cattle rancher who, and I'm told when he comes up in his truck with all the spent grain in the back of his truck, the cattle just ram that truck. That makes me feel good. It's like we're feeding those cattle, ramming it. I wanted to get a video, but I don't know, it didn't work. It would have been a good shot. And so the cattle, unfortunately, they lose their lives. But they come back to Worthy in the form of a burger, so I feel a little good. I'm not a big meat eater, but still, they were happy. I mean, they were happy cows with all that great hoppy good stuff that they ate from Worthy. So that was fun. So, again, the waste stream is all. We learned that so many of our companies, they just pollute. They let the future generations deal with the byproducts. Or they think that the environment has this endless sink where it can absorb all these extra inputs. And so being kind of a water guy, I'm an Aquarius, all right? So I like water, and we all like water. That's why we're here, right? In fact, we're going to see a lot of people coming to Benton pretty soon because water's scarce. It's getting scarcer. So in 2012, we knew that eventually all these breweries coming in, they have a tremendous waste stream, very high total suspended solid count as well as BOD because we produce all these grains and all these hops since they're organic. And a lot of that gets flushed right into this public sewer system. That's not good because that's my product. I got a price on it. I'm not going to pass the cost off onto you. You didn't, that's not fair. So without any regulations, any mandates, he said, we've got to pre-clean, we've got to pre-treat our water. So we put in a system. Deschutes also had it at the time. And it works wonderfully. It's so easy. It's not even that expensive. We just basically have a machine that measures the pH in our effluent, and we remove the heavy solids, and again put those in a big bin and send them down the road to the cattle rancher. So it's a great system, model program. One day it's going to be required by the city. So if you know it's going to be required, get out in front of it, take leadership, own it, love it. Feel good about it? Yeah, it costs a little extra, that's fine. Why? It makes no sense to me that people are upset about having to pay for the cost of the product they're producing. This is what we make, it's beer. There is a byproduct. Clean it up, deal with it. It's fun, I like it. So I really, that gives me a big charge. I really love that. And these are some other technologies. Again, no one wants to talk about chillers, high efficiency boilers, but I'm proud of them. I mean, this smart chiller is really cool. It's got this flux capacitor thing, you know, where you only use it if you use it. Like, it doesn't run all the time and draw electricity when it's not being used. So when there's a need on the brew house floor for chilled glycol, then the system operates. It's just like when you walk into a room, the lights come on. That's cool. That's saving money. Why have lights on all the time if no one's here, right? We know that. So it's motion activated. This is sort of like user activated. That's pretty cool. High efficiency boiler. The conventional boiler is around 75%. We're at 95. That makes me feel good. So the waste heat is basically used to preheat the water, and again, you're creating these loop systems, right? Why vent hot air up into the atmosphere? It makes no sense unless you're in New York City, where I just was yesterday, and you walk down the street and these big vents come up and this hot air's coming up. I'm like, you're venting hot air into the environment. What the hell? What are you doing? Now, if you're homeless, you need a place to sleep. It's awesome. And you'll see them just sleeping there happily. Like, I want to sleep like that. Anyway, that's another story. So that's pretty cool. And then, so we talked about some of the things we're doing at Worthy, and maybe a little bit, you're learning a little bit more about why. I mean, I'm going to use the word cool a lot. I'm not a techie. I just like it's cool. I think it's the right thing to do. I'm going back to that question that the philosopher Horace planted in my brain a long time ago. Is, can you do the right thing and make money? Well, before we get to that, answer that question, let's look at the environmental benefits. And I think we all know this, right? Just so if we just combine the solar thermal, or just the solar electric systems alone, I mean, I feel really good about this. We're sparing, when you add it all up, about 100,000 pounds of carbon dioxide a year when you factor in all the solar thermal and the PV. And all the other efficiencies, which is the equivalent of about planting 8 acres of trees. I like that. I like the idea of knowing that I'm running a business that makes great beer, great food, provides a great experience, but also is addressing the issue of climate change. We all have to do something. I want to be part of the solution, right? We learned that growing up. You're part of the problem, or you're part of the solution. Well, I think every business person wants to be part of the solution. They should be. So this makes me feel good. For every time we're at Worthy, every time we generate watts from our solar, electric, or thermal, we're sparing the use of electricity from the Pacific Power. We all know they draw about 60% of their power from out-of-state coal-fired power plants. So that's good. We're not blowing the air with more, filling the air with more carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, sulfur dioxide. So that makes me feel good. And I've always, my mama taught me, leave the world a little better than you found it, and that's what we're trying to do. Thank you, Mama. Okay. So that makes me feel good. The financial incentives, real quickly. There used to be where if you had to ask, you couldn't afford it, but that's not the way it is now. Solar is very affordable. It's very reasonable. It looks good. The people who install it, especially at Sunlight Solar, are great people. They answer all your questions. They're really, really smart. And you know how you go to like Safeway and you got to give them your card and you spend about $60 and they say, you saved $1. Like, yeah, that's great. I saved $1. It makes, I'm from Corvallis. To me, that's important. So this is, and so every day you look at your meter and they say, you saved $18. I think that's awesome. Did the right thing, spared the environment, carbon and pollution, made some great beer, and I saved $5. So to me, that's important. So there's incentives here. Energy Trust of Oregon, they're awesome. They'll answer all your questions. Basically, depending on the size of your system, you get about a 60% reduction on the purchase price with a rebate, so you get a rebate right off the top. And then there's a federal tax credit, about 30% of the customer price. That's the price you pay after the rebate from the Energy Trust. I'm told that's going to expire soon, so get with it. And also vote for people who want to renew that statute that allows for that tax rebate. And then also there's accelerated depreciation benefits that are really, really awesome. There's some statutes out there. Congress apparently has done a few things right. They do allow for accelerated depreciation for investments like this. So the first couple of years, you get a big chunk off, like 50, 60% the first year or two, and then it kind of trails off over 4 or 5 years. But that's huge. I mean, that's Jimmy Carter's vision. Get the government not only to acknowledge a problem, but also offer solutions and incentives. And that we lost some yardage with Reagan. We lost some yardage, but we're getting it back slowly. But we're getting close. Now, so I'm supposed to be the entrepreneur guy, and so I need to answer the question, well, does this make sense? Does it pencil out, okay? So let's sharpen our pencils. So this whole solar system, when you factor in the thermal and the electric, costs about 300 grand, give or take. All right, you got the Energy Trust rebate of 16% or so. So you reduce the purchase price down to about 250, okay? That's not chump change, that's money, right? So, and then you look at the tax benefits. You got the accelerated depreciation, that's around 26%, and you get that federal tax credit of around 30%. And so the net cost is about 66% of the sticker price. I paid a third. Now, again, I didn't go into this because I'm like, I gotta save every nickel, although that's part of my character. But I didn't do that. I figured, if I do the right thing, if I tell a horse to flip off, I'm going to do the right thing and make money, then that's a win-win, and I'm happy. And everyone happy, everyone wins. And thank you, taxpayers, thank all of you. You helped build my system, thank you. Yes, here we go, thank you. And that's, you vote for people who recognize that there's a problem, and there are ways to solve it, and there are ways to incentivize people to do that. And so this system in my world works very nicely. So we get about, in addition to the deductions on the purchase price and operation of the equipment, we're also generating power. We produce beer, burgers, salads, and power. We're a mini generator. Okay, that makes me feel good. Everyone talks about getting off the grid, right? I'm gonna get off the grid. They go camping for maybe a night, right? And everyone loves it. Well, I want to get off the grid totally and be my own grid. I want to be my grid. So this is what I'm doing. I'm gridding off, and I'm getting paid for it. And if you look at the numbers, I get this system paid off in 9 years.
Wow.
9 years. And then if you look long-term, and again, this is all long-term stuff, right? If you look long-term, what you have to, no one talks about what's the long-term return on a Hannafin Parker boiler. No one talks about it. No one uses that language. But for some reason, for solar, there's this paradigm that you have to show that it pays off. I don't know where we get that, because it pays off the second you start generating clean, renewable energy from the sun, it pays off in the Karma Bank, at least. But it also pays off in the Citibank, or Wells Fargo Bank, or whatever bank you're using. Over a 25-year period, you're gonna actually save about $434,000. That's real money. And this chart, this is a lovely chart, but you're not going to be able to see it. But I'll just real quickly. So again, about $300,000 for the total system. You knock off the Energy Trust rebate, you're down to about $250,000. You got these accelerated depreciation benefits. And again, this is not applicable totally to me. This is more general. If you have real questions, your accountant can help you on this. My accelerated depreciation was a little bit higher than that, which is awesome. You get that first year deduction, that credit of around 30% from the feds. And then every year over here, you see you're generating savings because you're operating the system. These systems today are beautiful, they're efficient, they work. And you see over time there's this utility, living adjustment, what is it? It increases in price, whatever the word it is. So the prices go up over time. And then you got your annual savings over here, and again, by the 9th year, you're actually in the black, making about $701, and over time, it just gets better and better and better. So, is there a return on investment? Yes, and that's just looking at it, crassly as a financial guy. Does this pencil out? Of course it does. And that's the goal. Now, I was just in Wall Street down there. And there's like 1 billion people on it. I tried to get a picture. you can't get a picture of the bull because thousands of people are all over it. It's amazing. And then you go behind the bull, and it's the bull's backside. There's people underneath it. I go, oh my God, there's people, what's going on? It's crazy. I mean, people. I don't know. But here's the thing. So data, okay, it's a bad word. No one wants to talk about data. But you can make data look sexy and elegant and cool. Look at people come into Worthy, they want to feel good about spending their $10, right? So they want to know, hey, this facility is actually giving back, not just taking my money, but they're giving back. They're using the sun. They're growing their herbs, right? And so we're putting this monitor on the wall that shows people when they walk in how much energy we're producing from our panels. And then it translates into the equivalency of how many trees you're planting, or how many miles you're not driving, or how many houses you're powering up. People like that. People are interested in that. Give it to them. Yes, it feels good to have those panels on the roof, but it even feels better to know that my customers know that we're part of the solution. So I think data can be very artistic. I think it can be very stimulating. It can make you feel good. And again, as a smart shopper at Safeway, when I go there, it's fun to see that you're making a little bit of money every day. I like rebates. I don't know if anyone else feels that way. Maybe it's just me. But I like to see I saved a buck. Maybe it's a flaw. I don't know. I'm okay with it. But so that's a cool thing. Now, remember we talked about awareness, kids. I got sort of into the whole environmental thing, but from the oil embargo, Jimmy Carter, the panels, Reagan pulling them off. So we thought, okay, we just hit a milestone, 400 parts per million. That's a bad thing, right? It's like the Earth has a lung around it called the atmosphere, and that lung is very resilient, it's very strong. It has antibodies in there to attack and scavenge all these trespassing little micropollutants. But even like the human lung, there's a breaking point. In terms of the environment, it's a tipping point. 400 ppm, that's our Rubicon. And I think we passed it. And I'm pretty bummed out about it, pretty worried about it. So we thought, okay, this is a bad deal. Nobody wants to go to a brewery and get down, although melancholy can be sweet. I do some Bob Dylan, you know, Neil Young. I like to get down now and then. It lifts me up. It's a paradox, but it works. So we thought, we got to do something. We actually, it was just me. Everybody goes, what? 400? Yeah, it's important, believe me. Okay, so let's do something. So we developed a beer. We called it 400 ppm. And it's made from locally grown hops, you know, right over the valley, processed locally. The barley's nearby in Vancouver. The yeast is from Columbia River area. And we called it 400 parts per million. And the idea was not to get people down, but just get them aware. And so the tagline when we started was like, what are you doing to reduce your carbon footprint? Again, I don't want to give a speech. They don't work. I've tried that. No speeches. Just what are you doing? Think about it. Does anyone not believe that they are not contributing carbon to the atmosphere? We all do. It's part of being a human. It's part of driving a car. But no one really takes ownership of it. So, well, let someone else deal with it. Let the government deal with it. By the way, let's destroy the government, which makes no sense to me. So I feel good about that. 400 ppm. Did I change anyone's mind? I don't know. Maybe I did. Maybe not. But it felt good for me. So that's pretty cool. And then, so the question that I've been tasked with addressing is, you know, why go green? Does it work? And look, I want to be out in front, all right? It's called jumping the S. I didn't go to business school. I didn't do any of that. I was a liberal arts guy. Jumping the sigmoid curve, to me, makes all the sense in the world. One day, it's going to be mandated. You know, when the skies turn black, it's going to be mandated. We're going to be forced to scrub the environment, or scrub our waste streams, our effluent, our emissions, scrub them of the CO2 and nitrous oxide and sulfur and all that. So let's do it now. Let's show some leadership. Let's, you know, Horace said it seize the day. Let's seize the moment. Everyone knows we have to do it. Everyone knows we're all sort of polluting in our own way, that the aggregate from all those tiny little pollutants is a real serious problem. You know, we all know dilution is not the solution to pollution. We've got to stop it at the source. Go solar. Go green. So it makes sense. And like I said, you can build your own grid system. When you're a solar power user, you're a generator, you're now a mini power company. That's great. And you make money doing it. So that's perfect. There's incentives, rebates. It's beautiful. So also, I think it's really important to show that you put your money where your mouth is, that you walk the walk. I mean, I learned that your deed has to match your word. We all give a great speech, but none of us does anything. I want to do both. Okay? So it's like Biden said. Joe Biden. He says, you know, don't tell me your values, show me your budget. Right? We can all talk, well, I'm green, you know, I really believe we ought to help here, we ought to do that. You know, we ought to save the environment, we ought to be clean. But no one does it. But the people who do it, that's great. Match the word and the deed. And I think that's really important. I think even your customers realize that. So that's important. Most importantly, I think it's just the idea that we want to be part of the solution. That's important. And look it. If we're not going to go green, we're going to turn black. And you can't go back. And I just made a rhyme. So that's so look it. Thank you for your attention. Someone wants to ask me a question. A couple guys. Can I take questions?
We have another speaker at 9:30, but yes, you've got
9:30 guys. All right. Thank you. I got a question. Back here first, and then you. Okay.
That's fine.
Yes, sir.
I just have to make a comment listening to this because I went to graduate school at Fort Collins, and I recently, after 4 years, kicked back there and talked to the mayor of Fort Collins and found out where they're at as a community. And they have taken the type of thing that George's talking about. The entire business community is now on board, and the whole community is into sustainable living. And guess what? Their economy is cranking like you on steroids because of it. And people are coming in from China, India, around the world to Fort Collins to learn what they're doing. So what I'm saying is that Fort Collins, and some of you may know, it has a big university there, so there's a lot more in Fort Collins than just business. But that community is just rising in the world as an example, and it's driving their economy. The mayor told me it's unbelievable what's happening to our economy because of the businesses like George is talking about across the entire city. And so I just want to say, if Bend could have more people like George, we would, you think we're doing well now? Oh, you wait and see.
All right.
George, thank you so much.
Well, thank you, George. I appreciate that. You're right. It does make sense. It makes total sense. And customers like it. They like the local movement's important, but also knowing that the business is engaged in sparing the environmental pollution. It all works. You had a question?
Not a question, but just something to add to your presentation. All the used cooking oil Worthy Brewery produces goes to make Oregon-made biodiesel. And thank you for that.
Well, this is the thing. See, once you start, it's hard to find an endpoint, right? Like now, we've got to recycle all of our green waste so we can compost this. And we're not going to use all the compost ourselves, but we can give it to local urban farmers. I mean, there's so many little examples like that. And it is kind of expensive. There is an upfront investment cost. But you have to tell yourself, and that's why it starts with that personal journey, like, this is important to me. I didn't learn this in business school, but it's important to me. And so I am looking at that as something we want to do with biodiesel. We do generate a lot of waste, and I don't want to jump it into the city sewer system. So,
will you be available for questions after? If anyone has questions, they can talk to you in the lobby perhaps?